Hello, this is going to be my video on how to find a slope from 2 points. I'm going to start by doing a few examples, especially starting with a generic example. So if I had any point. So if I have any point, a slope, reading from left to right, should always be how fast it's going up versus how fast it's going to the side. Some people like to say that as rise over run. Some people like to say that as the change vertically over the change horizontally. But as far as you're concerned, the main thing you gotta do is keep these two right coordinates together at the y's and subtract those on top. So when it says y2 here, it's not saying y to the power of 2, it's just saying the second y. So we're going to take that second y first and subtract the first y. Then you might say, why don't I take the first y and subtract that? That'd be fine too, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that on the bottom you have to subtract the x's. And when you subtract the x's, you have to have the 2 on top of the 2 and the 1 on top of the 1. As long as those are lined up, you're okay. As long as you're subtracting the second from the first or the first from the second, it'll work out and you'll get your slope. So that might have been confusing at first, so let's look at what that looks like with numbers. Here, we're always going to subtract the y on top and the x on bottom. I'm going to do it just in the most generic algebraic math way possible. So some people like to label theirs. So if you want to label it, go for it. So here, our second y coordinate is 8. Our first y coordinate is 5. So we're going to have 8 minus 5. Alright, now try to think what should go down here. If I did 8 minus 5 on top, what's going to go on the bottom? Well, I'm going to take that second one first. So the most common wrong answer here is probably 3 minus 5. But make sure that since we went to 8 first, that's 8 coming from over here. We got to use this 5 coming over here first. So we want to make it 5 minus 3. That'll give us 3 over 2, and all of our slopes will generally be fractions. So there's a 3 over 2. Alright, let's look at another one over here. We're going to do the same thing. We got x1, y1, x2, y2. This is a 1. So we're going to subtract that y2 on top, 7 minus 2, and subtract those x's on the bottom. So here we've got a 1 and a negative 6. So 1 minus, negative 6. We got to represent that minus a negative here. And we're going to change that to addition. So that's going to give us a 5, and then a 1 plus 6 is going to give us a 7, and that's going to be our slope. So you might be asking, well, why do I have to do it the second one first? Maybe I want to do the first one first. You could do that if you did 2 minus 7 first, as long as you do the negative 6 first here, because the negative 2 and the negative 6 are from the same point. Then when you subtract 1, you would get negative 5 over negative 7, and a negative over negative becomes positive, you get the same answer. So just make sure you line up those points. Alright, now I want you to try this last one before I do it. So pause that video. So here we're going to have the second y minus the first y on top, 2 minus 0, negative 2 minus 0. And then on the bottom we're going to have the second x minus that first x. So we are going to have a lot of negatives here, so be careful. Let's go slow. We got negative 5 is our second x, minus negative 1 is our first x. Anything minus 0 is just the same number. And on the bottom though, just like the bottom of the over here, we're going to have to make that into addition. And now we got opposite signs, so negative 5 plus 1. If I owe someone $5, I pay them $1 back. Still owe them $4. Negative divided by negative can become positive. And then I can reduce this 2 over 4 into 1 over 2. But even if you didn't, this would still graph okay. So that's how you get a slope from 2 points. If you want to see more examples, there's going to be some special cases. We'll look at those too.